Hello again and welcome to another one of my podcasts. This one is going to cover a couple of main things. The first one is I'm going to talk about buoyancy control. I know this is a thorny subject. I know people have strong views on it. I'm going to tell you how I do it, why I do it, and hopefully that will be useful or if not useful, at least interesting for you. The second thing I'm going to do is give you a bit of an update on the search for the Tampa. We went out again yesterday. Spoiler, we weren't successful, but we did find a really interesting story, and that's going to be the subject of this Sunday's video. Before I do those things though, I'm just going to give you a bit of a general update about a few other bits and pieces. So the first thing, it's something I'm really personally proud about, is I've finally got over that 10,000 subscribers milestone. At the end of the day, it's just a number, but it was really nice to get there, and that happened a while ago, so that's great. And obviously, as with all these things, we move on. Second thing is something that I really enjoyed doing, is I had another live stream with Achim from Inner Space Explorers. That took place at the weekend. If you've not seen that, I would really encourage you to go and have a look at it, and I'll put a link obviously in the description and up there in the top of the screen, so you can have a look at it. I'm going to get together with him again, and we're going to pick up all the questions that we didn't answer on the last one. And a massive sorry to UW Greg. I know I promised you that I'd pick up your questions, and I didn't do that. Really sorry. We're definitely going to do it in that response. So hopefully you'll get that very soon. And I'm going to be doing another one of those live streams. It will be on my channel. It will be in mid-June somewhere, sometime. I'm not exactly sure when yet, but we will obviously let everyone know. Some other stuff you may have, hopefully you've seen a load of the other videos that I've released. The thing that I'm particularly pleased about is the bell from the Trentonian. I think the last time I did this, I told you that I found something really important, but I couldn't give you the details. Well, obviously the cat is now out of the bag, and the bell, most importantly, is now on its way back to Canada, which is just a fabulous result. I'm so pleased with it. If you haven't watched the video, obviously I'd encourage you to go and do that. It's a video that I'm really pleased about. I think it works really well, and hopefully you will agree too. If you don't think so, as always, leave me a comment, tell me what you think, and obviously that helps me make better videos, which is really appreciated. So those are a few updates on the channel, but one of the other things I want to mention is that I get lots of comments or requests or whatever from people who are saying, Dom, I'd love to dive with you. How can we make that happen? And that's obviously a really, really nice thing to have. I'm really touched by that. So I've been trying to figure out a way I can do that. And one of the things I'm doing is I'm working with Indeep, the local charter company here in Plymouth. You'll have seen them on loads and loads of my videos. And I'm going to put together, hopefully, 5 days of diving in September, where people can come down here and we will go and do some 60, 65 metre dives. Lots of the ones that you've seen on some of my videos, maybe the Stock Force, maybe the Medoc, maybe the Stonehaven, a load of these kind of things, and a few of the other ones as well. So once I've got the details of that, obviously I will let you know, and hopefully a few of you will fancy that and we can make it happen. And if that's successful, I am going to do exactly the same thing, but more of it next year, and hopefully that will offer people who are trying to get into technical diving the opportunity to get on some boats and go and do some diving and realise how fabulous it is out here in Plymouth. So I think that's really interesting. I'm quite excited by it. I obviously just need to get all the stuff sorted. You can imagine there's all sorts of bits and pieces you need to put in place for that to happen. So anyway, that will be coming, hopefully. The other thing I was promised to give you was an update on the Tampa. You may recall I've mentioned the Tampa in some of my other videos. United States Coast Guard Tampa was a relatively small vessel that came over as part of the Americans' contribution to the war effort in the First World War and was sunk in 1918 off the north coast of Cornwall. So for those of you not familiar with the UK, that's kind of the very southwest bit of the UK, somewhere between there and Ireland, in the middle of the sea. It basically vanished, and they didn't find very much of it. I think they found a single body. They found a life buoy floating around, but nothing other than that. So the only real reliable evidence on what happened to the Tampa is from the two sources really. One is the U-boat skipper, the guy who sunk it, and the other is the convoy that the Tampa was escorting until it decided it needed to go away and refuel, and then headed off and then vanished. So those are the kind of source data. The area in which the Tampa is or was sunk is absolutely massive, and there are a whole load of wrecks in there. That bit of water was happy hunting grounds for German submarines in both wars. Obviously, there's also been a whole load of other ships sunk there over the years, whether it's just good old-fashioned weather, whether it's collisions, whether it's other events, war events, whatever. So there's a load of shipwrecks. There is not very much data on what happened to the Tampa. So the problem with the submarine report is that the submarine was submerged for quite a bit of the time. It was so far offshore they didn't have reliable ways of calculating exactly where they were, and it was really foggy at the time as well. So it's kind of all these things just make it really, really bad. The convoy was obviously having some of the similar problems. So it was in fog, didn't know exactly where it was. The Tampa left it. They weren't certain how far it went before it obviously got torpedoed. They did hear an explosion. So those source data is really poor. So what we've been doing is we've been trying to use that data to try and identify where it might be, and we've been out and diving marks. For those who don't know, a mark is an anomaly on the seabed that's highlighted by the United Kingdom Hydrographic Office. Sometimes they will, most often actually, they will give you some additional data on it. They will say how long it is, they will say how high it stands, they will say how wide it is. Now that data can be quite old, it can be relatively modern, sometimes it's just utter rubbish, sometimes it's absolutely spot on. So what we have been doing is using the information about where the Tampa may have been sunk, along with the list of anomalies that there are out there, and trying to find ones that might match. Oh, the other problem with the Tampa is it was hit by a really big torpedo, and the Tampa was really small. So these kind of torpedoes were used to sink things like liners, and therefore the chances are that the Tampa was really badly smashed up. So it's probably quite a small underwater anomaly. So we've been doing all these things together and going out and diving wrecks, and or diving marks rather, and trying to find out what's down there. And if you've seen some of my other videos, you will have seen some of the marks that we've dived while we're looking for the Tampa. So other good examples would be the LCT, if you've seen my video for that one. There's another one where I just say we dived an unknown shipwreck, and it just turned out to be, quite an old 19th century steamship. So once again, I'm going to put links to the other dives that we've done while we're looking for the Tampa, but we've not found it. And we went out yesterday, we dived something that looked really good. There was a really high level of confidence in it, and it turned out to be a 1970s freighter. So if you don't understand how a 1970s freighter, nobody can know where, people don't know where it is, well, once again, it's because this is a big bit of sea. It's because things that sink in storms and bad weather, often there aren't accurate reports for these kind of things. So the wreck that we found was actually several nautical miles away from where it was thought to be. It does beg the question that what is the thing that's several nautical miles away? So I think we're probably going to go out and dive that at some point. So, and obviously all this stuff is deep as well. So that was 90 metres. It's also a long way offshore. So that was nearly 40 nautical miles from the port of Newquay, which is in Cornwall. And that's where we left. So we go out and dive these things. It's obviously not a cheap pastime. To travel 40 miles out is, significant amount of money. It takes an entire day, plus obviously some stuff either side in terms of getting plan, ready and everything. So it's a big investment in time and effort and money, and you need the dive team and all the usual kind of things. So, once again, we've solved another mystery. We've not found the Tampa, but, fingers crossed we will do at some point. And I'm going to make the video about the freighter that we found yesterday. I'm going to push it out on Sunday, and you will hear all about it, not least because it's an amazing story of a ship that was sunk by the cargo of herrings that it was carrying. If you don't know what herrings are, they're a type of fish, and that's what caused the ship to sink, 1976. So there we go. That's the update on the Tampa. The other thing I would talk to you about is buoyancy control. So a few people say really nice things on my videos. They say things like your buoyancy control is really good. have you got any tips? How could I make mine better, and those kind of things. And it's one of those things. Obviously, I've been diving quite a long time. I've been diving a rebreather quite a long time, and therefore, that kind of gets it in your muscle memory. But one of the other things I think is to share what works for me. Now, I'm not saying that these will work for other people, and I understand people who do things differently. I'm not criticising them. At the end of the day, this is about trying things that work for you and finding one that you're happy with. So what do I do for buoyancy? Well, the first thing is I do not use the wing on my rebreather for my buoyancy. Now, I know in some circles that's absolute sacrilege, and there are organisations who teach, no, the BCD is what you must use, your wing is what you must use, you should only put gas into your Drysuit to kind of minimise squeeze. And you know what? If it works for them, that's absolutely fine. I've tried that. I've dived with that. It doesn't work for me. And so therefore, I use my BCD. Sorry, I don't use my BCD. I use my Drysuit. And what is my rationale for that? Well, my rationale is that I am going to need to be putting gas in and taking gas out of my Drysuit anyway. So therefore, it makes sense to only have 2 gas spaces to manage. So gas space 1 is the counter lungs on my rebreather. Gas space 2 is my Drysuit. It's what I used to do. It's what I do if I ever dive open circuit. I don't use my BCD or my wing on open circuit unless I am somewhere where I don't have a Drysuit, obviously. So it works for me in all configurations. And I think having one less gas space to manage makes it easier. And I'm all about reducing task loading, particularly when you get into high stress situations. I think it's important that things are easy for you. So that's my kind of rationale. In terms of the risk, I think people often who dive Drysuits are really concerned that if they put too much gas in the Drysuit, they may end up inverted. And if you end up inverted, then obviously there is the risk of you coming up to surface and making a rapid ascent and all those kind of things. And clearly that is a very, very bad thing to happen. So you do not want to come up inverted. You do not want to get your feet above your head. So that's why some people like to wear ankle weights. Some people have really heavy fins. Some people obviously only put the very minimal amount of gas into their Drysuit, which is just enough to take off the squeeze. So you know what? If that is a big concern to you, that is an entirely valid way of doing it. So, that's great. That's not a concern that I have. I have done thousands of dives in a Drysuit. I have never been inverted. I know how to keep my feet under control. I can adopt positions in the water, even, horizontal trim and all those kind of things, where even with, relatively serious amounts of gas in my Drysuit, that is not going to my feet and it is not causing me to be inverted. And I guess the other thing I know what to do is if for whatever reason I were to end up inverted, I know how to manage that. I know obviously how to, scrunch up and do a forward roll or whatever in order to get my shoulder where my dump is up vertically so that I can get rid of gas. So that's my kind of rationale. I have had one occasion where I've ended up inverted, and I'm going to share this story with you because people like stories, and also I'm just as fallible as anybody else. And what happened to me is I actually managed to get a DSB line caught up in my fin, and when it got caught in my fin, I don't know, I have still no idea how it happened, but it did happen, and I had a safety stop to do. It was relatively shallow, 20 odd metre dive. So I did my safety stop inverted. Obviously, I didn't end up coming to the surface. Did my safety stop inverted, which wasn't very comfortable. And while I was doing that, obviously, I was gesturing to one of my buddies. I think I was with a few other people at the time. And when I think they'd stopped laughing, they came over and helped me by getting rid of the reel from the clip on my fin where it had caught, and then I could get the right way up, and it was all okay at that point. So yeah, it wasn't particularly comfortable, and probably not your classic Drysuit inversion, but it was quite uncomfortable and something you want to avoid. So that's my thoughts on buoyancy control and why I use a Drysuit rather than why I use a wing, and it's all about that task loading, reducing it and making it easier for yourself. So it's exactly the same reason I prefer an electronic CCR to an MCCR, all about reducing task loading. But you know, I know other people disagree, other people have different views, and that's entirely fine. I welcome those. The other thing I just wanted to talk to you about is the videos that I've got coming out. So I've already mentioned that on Sunday I'm going to release a video about the ship that was sunk by herring, which is I'm just trying to figure out how I do a kind of thumbnail or whatever for that, but hopefully I can come up with something that works quite well. The other thing I'm going to do is on Friday I've got another gear review. So I've been diving with an Orcatorch DC 710. It's kind of very similar to the D710 that I had on my last gear review. This one is a bit longer. It comes with a Goodman handle and it's got a charging point, so you can charge it through the case. You don't actually need to take it apart, which I think is a really nice touch. So that one is going to be out on Friday. I hope you all watch it and I hope you find it interesting and all those kind of things. There's also the opportunity to win that torch as well, and I'm really pleased that the last torch I gave away as a competition prize is out there, and the chap who won it, Kevin, sounds like an ideal recipient. He's a young lad just getting into diving, so it's really nice that he could get that torch, and obviously that will save him a bit of money and help with his diving and everything. But doesn't have to be that. Anybody can win it. It's going to be exactly the same as my last competition. So just anybody who's a member of the Deep Wreck Diving Facebook group will be entered into the draw for it. So if you haven't done that already, then please do so, and maybe you. Right, well, I think that's probably enough of me talking to you all. I hope you've enjoyed the update on the Tampa. I hope you've enjoyed hearing my thoughts on buoyancy control. Hope you've enjoyed all those other updates, and as always with my videos, please, if you were able to give me a like or leave a comment or anything like that, that would be really appreciated. It does help a lot. So thank you all, and hopefully I will do something similar next week.